A Big Thank You, by Anna von Reitz. I just want to say a huge thank you to all those Americans who are taking the time and making the effort to reclaim their own birthright political status and who are booting up their state and county jural assemblies all across the country. It appears that just seeing the sample mission statement kicked off a lot of worthwhile discussion and inspired thinking. It's true that the state jural assemblies have a lot to do and a lot to organize, but with a clear view of what needs to be done and an equally clear view of both the blessings to be secured and the losses if we fail, I am confident that the ranks will continue to swell as more and more Americans come home. One of the greatest and earliest achievements you can all claim with your fledgling efforts is that with the establishment of state jural assemblies in every state, the public and organic law of this country can be accessed again. Very soon you will see the cracks and chinks appearing in the corporate tribunals masquerading as our courts and a change in the attitude of all the politicians. Why? Because of you. The American public is hoving into view for the first time in many decades. We are well armed with a correct knowledge of our country's history and the pathway is clear before us. Form up our jural assemblies and hold our elections, continue the education and outreach, reconstruct our federal state of states, and when we are ready, call a Continental Congress of the land jurisdiction states to take care of our long overdue business. Of course, we will face scorn from clueless people and from those who have benefited from our purported absence, but even now, the back of the beast is breaking as a result of your efforts. No longer can the politicians pretend to represent us. No longer can the private courts ignore the public law. At last the outrageous practices and lies that have kept this system going are exposed and a fresh breeze is blowing. Wise as serpents, gentle as doves, and if I may, grouchy as bears and stubborn as oxen, the Americans are coming home and viewing the wreck our unfaithful employees have made of things. It will take a little time for the word to spread and the walls of corruption to tumble, but you are shining a very bright light in the darkness, by realizing who you are as an American and taking back the powers and assets owed to you and your state. I am deeply grateful to all of you and for all of you, because your support for your state jural assembly and your action to reclaim your own good name and estate spells the doom of the evils that have dominated our country and our world for generations. You are the housecleaning crew, the proof that we can and will set our house in order, that we will sail our ship of state, and we will do this peacefully, intelligently, and with resolve. I have had a couple important questions. How does the fact that many of the Western states were never actually enrolled in the Federation of States affect them? The moment your state jural assembly starts to operate, the doors start to swing open, prison doors and other doors of all kinds. The state of state can no longer claim control of your state trust. In fact, the state trust must be dissolved and all the land and resources, including all the land titles, must be returned to the people of your state. Please be aware that although those titles are now useless as old broken handcuffs, their release sets you free. Open up your recorder's office so that people have a trustworthy place to record their ownership interests. Charge a reasonable fee for the service and you are on your way. When you hold your state jural assembly elections, include a ballot question and approve proxy representation by the United States of America, the actual unincorporated version, so that the full weight and power of your sister states supports your efforts to organize and protects your claims internationally. Work hard at organizing and running your state jural assembly and educating yourselves, and hasten the day when a true Continental Congress of State Deputies graces our soil again and your state is finally enrolled as a full member of the Federation of States, no longer in any way subject to territorial United States interference. Until that day, expect that the territorial branch of the federal government will continue to insist on managing so-called federal lands on a caretaking basis, howbeit, with a much greater respect for local people and their needs and a more circumspect view of their actual role as caretakers instead of landlords. What is the status of American Indians in all of this? In 2015, we established a Declaration of Joint Sovereignty that allows everyone equal access to the land and soil they are born on, so Native Americans can come home, too, just like all the rest of us. They can choose to live as state nationals or serve as state citizens like anyone else, too. And of course, they retain their tribal identity and rights and assets, also. What about African Americans? We have been researching hard on this topic and found evidence that all Negro, mulatto, and colored people actually were set free after the Civil War and for a brief time enjoyed the same rights and political status as everyone else. before being entrapped by the conferred U.S. citizenship scheme that was eventually expanded and mechanized to enslave practically everyone as public instead of private property. That is, we all started out as free men and women in 1865, and colored people were simply the first victims of this outrageous fraud scheme seeking to redefine us all as U.S. citizens. That being so, and as you all value your own freedom and stand as victims of the same crimes, I would suggest that the State Jural Assemblies simply add a ballot question to officially welcome people of all colors, races, ethnicity, and religions as State Jural Assembly members. We need to stand together on this, and we need the help of every able-bodied American. As we have all suffered together, it's high time we all learn to help and support each other and claim back the rights and property of all Americans. Can people born in one of the western states that were never enrolled claim their basic state national status through a parent, like children born to Americans abroad? Yes. And the access to the state trust goes back 3 generations, so if, for example, your family has been living in Nevada for 3 generations, you can establish your American nationality through even one great-grandparent who was born or naturalized in one of the states that were states prior to 1860. This is called being grandfathered in. In a few rare cases, it may be necessary to wait until your state is formally enrolled and declare your permanent domicile, as all our immigrant ancestors did, by having established a home for at least a year and living peaceably without committing any felonies and independently without public assistance, and running 3 small ads in the local paper declaring your intention to make, for example, Nevada, your permanent home. There are still some sneering federales swaggering around, and there are still some terribly ignorant people who haven't heard the news or understood the message, but what you are doing with your State Jural Assembly is restoring our country and our rightful government. The public and organic law is back in effect because of you. God bless every single one of you for making that happen. Please hit subscribe, like, share, embed, and get ready for many more Anna von Reitz videos.